The Cocaine Wars, a non-fiction book written by British journalist Paul Eddy in 1988, along with his colleagues Hugo Sabogal and Sara Walden from London's Sunday Times, delves into the cocaine trafficking trade in the Americas. The book presents a critical analysis, asserting that the US government's efforts to combat this trade have been ineffective. For their compelling work, the authors received a nomination for the Edgar Award in the Best Fact Crime category. The narrative begins by exploring the origins of the Medellin Cartel, a Colombian criminal organization that once dominated 85% of the US cocaine market. Focusing on the city of Medellin, the authors introduce Fabio Ochoa Restrepo, also known as Don Fabio, a wealthy figure involved in legal enterprises such as cattle ranching, horse breeding, and restaurants. However, Don Fabio starts supplementing his income by engaging in criminal activities, including smuggling items like Scotch whiskey and television sets. In 1976, Don Fabio's son Jorge Luis Ochoa assumes nominal control of the family business. While some sources suggest that Don Fabio continues to run the operation behind the scenes to avoid legal repercussions, his son becomes the public face as the family expands its involvement in Colombia's burgeoning cocaine trade. Simultaneously, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, hailing from a middle-class background, embarks on various criminal endeavors ranging from car theft to kidnapping wealthy businessmen. Recognizing the growing demand for cocaine in the United States, the ample supply of raw cocaine paste in South America, and the absence of powerful criminal organizations dedicated to drug trafficking, Escobar seizes the opportunity to dominate the market. He procures cocaine paste from Peru, refines it in a sophisticated laboratory located in Medellin, and smuggles it onto planes bound for South Florida and California. In the early stages of his smuggling operations, Escobar conceals the cocaine within old airplane tires. Each successful flight generates substantial profits, with Escobar and his associates earning up to $500,000 per trip. In 1978, Pablo Escobar and his associate Carlos Leder make a significant move by purchasing most of the land on Norman's Cay, a small island in the Bahamas, located approximately 220 miles from the Florida coast. They either force or compensate the local population to vacate the island, establishing it as the de facto headquarters and central hub for Escobar's expanding drug smuggling empire. On Norman's Cay, Escobar and Leder construct essential infrastructure, including a 1-kilometer airstrip, a harbor, hotels, and a massive refrigerated warehouse dedicated to storing cocaine. This strategic development enables efficient operations and secure storage for their illicit activities. In 1981, a pivotal event occurs that catalyzes the consolidation of various Colombian smugglers into a unified criminal organization. The Colombian guerrilla group M19, seeking funds for its paramilitary activities, kidnaps and demands ransom for Martha Neves, the daughter of Don Fabio. In response to secure Martha's release and deter future kidnappings, the Ochoas form an alliance with Escobar and Leder, establishing Muerte de Secuestradores, death to kidnappers. This alliance solidifies the collaboration between Colombia's drug trafficking powerhouses, laying the foundation for what would later be recognized as the infamous Medellin Cartel. During its peak in the mid-1980s, the Medellin Cartel generates staggering profits, surpassing $70 million per day, resulting in an estimated annual revenue of around $26 billion. The cartel smuggles 15 tons of cocaine into the United States daily, valued at approximately $500 million on the streets. The immense influx of cash is so vast that the cartel spends $1,000 weekly on rubber bands alone to bundle the bills. Concerned by the escalating volume of illicit drugs flooding into the United States and the corresponding cocaine epidemic in American cities, President Ronald Reagan escalates the U.S. government's war on drugs, focusing intensified efforts on combating the Medellin cartel. However, the government faces numerous challenges in their pursuit due to the complexities involved in implementing an extradition treaty with Colombia. Colombian politicians who express support for the treaty become targets of death threats from the powerful Medellin cartel, further complicating the situation. Ironically, the political landscape in Colombia regarding the extradition treaty takes a significant turn with the assassination of Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, the Colombian Minister of Justice and a staunch advocate for extradition, ordered by Escobar in 1984. This shocking event changes the dynamics within Colombia. President Belisario Betancur, who had previously been against extradition, announces a shift in his stance and expresses willingness to extradite the country's top drug lords to the United States. This forces Escobar, Ochoa, and Leder to seek refuge in Panama, hoping for protection under the regime of military dictator Manuel Noriega. Unbeknownst to Escobar and his associates, Noriega maintains secret contacts with the U.S. government and intends to betray the cartel leaders. However, Escobar discovers this treacherous plan by bribing Noriega's top colonels. Fearing for their lives, the kingpins flee to Nicaragua in search of safety. In the book, the authors delve into allegations surrounding the involvement of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency (CIA) with the drug smuggling activities of right-wing Nicaraguan paramilitary groups known as Contras. Throughout the Contras' conflict with the socialist Nicaraguan government, the United States provides financial and military support to the rebels. While investigations are ongoing, the authors suggest a potential informal alliance between the CIA and Nicaraguan drug smugglers, including Raul Diaz, to finance the Contras. The U.S. government acknowledges that some cocaine proceeds in the United States may have contributed to funding the Contras, but denies any direct authorization or involvement with Nicaraguan drug smugglers. Furthermore, the authors shed light on widespread corruption among law enforcement officials in Dade County, Florida, which undermines the federal government's efforts to combat cocaine abuse within the United States. This corruption poses an additional challenge to the fight against the drug trade. Overall, the authors in The Cocaine Wars explore the complex interplay between drug cartels, political dynamics, international alliances, and alleged connections to intelligence agencies, highlighting the intricate web of factors that hindered the U.S. government's attempts to curtail the cocaine epidemic and bring the culprits to justice. The Cocaine Wars offers a meticulously researched and sobering examination of the expansion of the cocaine trade, exposing the profound shortcomings of the United States in its attempts to curb its proliferation. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.